Guys, this is Math 6, Lesson 6-5. Find the percent of a number. In this lesson, we'll be able to solve problems involving percents. Let's look at solve and discuss it. Lauren bought a jacket that was on sale for 60% off. She paid 40% of the original price of $75. How much did Lauren pay for the jacket? Have you bought something on sale? What was the original price? What was the percent discount? I bought some sweaters that were on sale in H&M. It was 20% off. So if it were $100, it was only $80. Or if it was $50, it was only $40. Okay, so Lauren buys a jacket that's on sale for 60% off. That's a big sale. She only paid 40% of the original price tag of 75. So if the original is 75, how do you figure out 40%? Okay, how can you use a model to represent problems involving percents? You have to know what your whole is and the part, okay? So what is 100% represented here? What would you say 100% is in terms of dollars? What was the original price? $75. So this is $75, okay? And you know, 50% is just half price. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 40% would be what? You can write ratios to figure that out. So 100% is $75. And that should be the same ratio as 40% equivalent to how many dollars, right? So in order for 100 to become 40, you divide by what number? 100 divided by, well, if that's too hard for you, how about thinking backwards? 40 times a number is 100. 40 times 2 is 80. 40 times 2.5 is 100. So 100 divided by 40 is 2.5, and 100 divided by 2.5 is 40. And we want that missing number. 100 divided by 2.5 is 40. So 75 divided by 2.5 should be the price equivalent, okay? So divide 75 by 2.5. And then you have 750 divided by 25. So 25 goes into 75 how many times? 3 times. So you have 30, and it's $30. What's another way to solve this? If 100% is $75, what is 10%? You divide 75 by 10 because 10% is 100 divided by 10. So if it's easier to compute 75 divided by 10 and then multiply by 4, you could also do that. 75 divided by 10 is 7.5, and 7.5 times 4 is 30, right? Yeah, $30. So she bought the $70 worth t-shirt as $30, okay? She paid $30. Okay, focus on math practices. When finding the percent of a number, how can you tell whether your answer is reasonable? How do you know if it's true? If your answer is correct? Will the answer be greater than or less than the original amount? How can you check if your answer is reasonable? Is this reasonable? If she got a percent off, like 60% off, does that mean she's paying more money or less money than the original price? Yeah, less money. And 60% off is even less than half price, right? So you should be able to figure out, oh, 30 is reasonable answer because it's less than the original price, 75. And so I didn't do something wrong. And also it's less, it looks like, less than half because 75 divided by 2 is 37.5 and 30 is less than that. So that makes sense. Okay, so let's write that down. When the percent of a number is less than 100 or part of the whole, the answer will be less than the original amount. Okay, so you need to know if your answer is going to be greater than or less than your original amount so that you can check if your answer is reasonable or not. Okay, so next page, how can you find percent would be the question that we're going to answer throughout this lesson. Example 1, estimate and find percent. The 4th, 5th, and 6th graders at Great Oak School are taking a field trip. Ooh. Of the 575 students attending the field trip, how many are 6th graders? So look at this pie chart. We got 36% of 6th graders, 40% of 5th graders, 24% of 4th graders. Yeah? So that's 36%, 40%, and 24%. So how many are 6th graders using the percentage shown? You know that the total students are 575. So you can divide that by 100 to get 1%. So 575 divided by 100 is 5.75. And that's 1%, right? And then you can multiply that by 36 to get the exact number. Okay, visually, how can you represent that? You can also estimate 575 to 600. Oh, example 1 is about estimating. Okay, so you can estimate 575 to 600. And because it's closer to 600 than it is to 500. And then you're gonna say 1/3 is about 36%. 36% is about 1/3. And so you can find 1/3 from 600. 600 divided by 3 is 200. So it's gonna be about 200. Okay, or if you want to find exact, you can use decimal form of the percent to find 36% of 575. 0.36 is the decimal form of this percent because percent by definition means divided by 100 or out of 100, right? So if you divide 36 by 100, it's 0.36. If you multiply that by the whole, you get a part. And 575 times 0.36, you multiply 6 here, and then you multiply 3 to 575. Okay, and then you have 207. So 207 students would be the exact amount of 6th graders. And looking at your estimation, it is close to 200. So you can check if your estimation was close or if your answer is a reasonable answer. So there are 207 sixth graders attending the field trip. Okay, let's look at try it. See if you can do this by yourself. Come back when you're ready for answers. Suppose 68% of the students attending the field trip were boys. How can you use the double number line diagram above, like this, to find the number of boys and to check whether your answer is reasonable? Okay, so you have a bar representing the number and another one representing the percent. Okay, 100% is now what? It's the same students, right? We have 575 students. Okay, that's the number. You don't estimate it because they don't say you need to estimate, but if whether when you're checking the answer of reasonableness, you can estimate your answer to 600 and then see and calculate and see if your answer is close to your estimation. Okay. But first, if 100% is 575, 68%, that's 50. 68% is close to 70%. So you can estimate this to 600 and find 70% of 600. 10% of 600 is 60. So 60 times 7 is 70%, right? So 420. Estimation is about 420. Okay, 70% of 600. Okay, but how do you find the exact solution? You change this percentage into decimal and say, oh, I'm gonna write 0.68, and then I'm gonna times that by the exact number, and then that gives me exactly 391. And 391 and 420, they're close. So it's reasonable. Okay. It's not too far off. Of course, if you really need an exact answer, they're very far away. But still, it's not like 100 or 600. So you're fine. Okay, so let's summarize that and explain what you did. Okay. How do you say? 68% is about 70%, and 575 is about 600 students. So 70% of 600 is 420. About 420 students, 420 boys. Okay. And then the decimal equivalent 68% is 0.68 because you divide it by 100. Is 0.6. Multiply 0.68 by 575. You get 391. 391 boys attended. Let's say exactly 390 boys attended. You can check the answer is reasonable by comparing with the estimation. 391 is close, it's not too far away from our first estimation. So the answer is reasonable. There you go. Okay. Convince me. In finding the percent of a number, when might you want to use a fraction form of the percent instead of the decimal form? When would you use the fraction? And when would you use the decimal? Here, we want to use the decimal when we're multiplying it out and getting the exact answers, right? When would you use fractions though? You use fraction of a form of a percent when the percent is equivalent to a fraction that's compatible with the whole number. Okay, so you can either use fractions or decimals if they're exactly the same, but sometimes when you try to convert it to fractions, it might take longer time for you because usually it is easier to convert percentages into decimals. Okay, so for fractions, you can use the fraction form of a percent. Fraction that is compatible with the whole number. Okay, if it's a complicated fraction, you don't want to mess with that. So if it's compatible with the whole number, then you can use it. Okay, the next page, example 2, find the part. Oh, what if we know the whole and the percentage, but we don't know how much is the part? Okay, Dwayne plans to wallpaper 72.5% of a 60 square foot wall. How many square feet of the wall does Dwayne plan to wallpaper? Find 72.5% of 60. So 60 is obviously 100%, and he's only going to wallpaper 72.5%. And so you want to find exactly how many square feet it is. So we're going to use the second method that we've been using. And we're going to write an equation. X is going to be, the part is always going to be what? Percentage times the whole. Why? Because we learned that percentage is part divided by whole, right? Whole is 100%. Part is, whether it's big or small, it's a different one, right? So if we change that equation and say, I want to get a part, so I'm going to multiply whole on both sides of the equation. I can get rid of this whole here and then say, oh, part is just going to be equivalent to whole times the percentage. Does that make sense? Yeah, so X is going to be the part that we want to figure out. That's the part. So your percentage is 72.5%. That's equivalent to the part. And 60 is your whole. So you multiply 72.5% with the decimal equivalent form with 60 to get 43.5. That is your part. Wasn't that simple? Yeah, just keep in mind that your percentage is always the part divided by the whole. So that means your part is percentage times the whole. Percentage of your part, not the percentage of your whole. Your percentage of the whole is always 100%. Okay, so he plans to wallpaper 43.5 square feet. Let's see if you can try it by yourself here. Come back when you're ready for answers. Okay, 0.8% of 35. What is 0.8% in decimal? 0.008. 0.8 divided by 100 is 0.008. You can't just use 0.8 because that's the percentage, okay? And we talked about a small percentage in the last lesson. All right, 0.008 times 35 will give you the whole. So multiply that, you will get 0.28. Right? Okay, example 3. Find the percent. What percent of 92 is 11.5? Now, we're going to find the percentage. Okay, what percent of 92 is 11.5? Now, what are the information we know? 92 of 92. We want to find what percent of 92 is 11.5. So 92 is the whole, 11.5 is part, and we want to know how much percent that is compared to 92. So 92 is the 100%. That's the percent number line, right? And the top one is the number. 11.5 is something percent from the 100%. How do you figure this out? You're going to use the same equation. Remember that percent is part divided by whole. We already know the part and the whole in terms of number. So we want to find the percentage. You just divide part by whole, quite literally. So 11.5 divided by 92 will give you a decimal equivalent to the percent. And that's going to be 0.125. And what is that in percentage? Multiply that by 100 and say, and get 12.5%. Okay. So how is example 3 different from example 2? Here, we already know the percentage and the whole, but we don't know the parts. So that's finding the parts. Example 1 was finding the whole. Wait, no, that was the estimating and finding percent. But you should be able to find the whole, percentage, or parts depending on which information you're given, okay? If you're missing the percentage, then you're dividing part by whole. If you're missing part, then you multiply percent and whole. If you're missing whole, then you divide part divided by percentage. It just depends. Okay, so let's try this question. Try it, the last try it. What percent of 120 is 72? What percent of means multiply 120 is 72? So literally convert your words into math symbols and you can solve that. Percent is what we're trying to get, right? So we're gonna divide 72 by 120. 120 is the whole. 72 is the part. So part divided by whole is 72 divided by 120. And that's going to be 0.6. So that is in percentage, 60%. Okay, don't forget to convert your decimal into a percentage because they want the percent, not your decimal. Okay, so let's summarize our lesson. Percent equations have a part, a whole, and a percent. You can see the equation to solve for the part, the whole, or the percent. To find the part, you have to multiply the percent by the whole. To find the percent, you can divide the part by the whole. Okay, so but you should know that percent is always the part divided by whole. Okay, so part is percent times whole, and whole is part divided by percent. Okay, that was lesson 6-5, find the percent of a number. We will continue with our last lesson, which is about finding the whole given part and the percent in the next video. Thanks, guys.